Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Sobriety and Everything Else. My name is Eric Andrew. I am your host for the show, and I'm coming to you live from my dining room studio. Yes, we spare no expense, none whatsoever on this podcast. All right, so, the last time I was here, I had a bunch of boxes in my front room. I was getting ready to have a bunch of work done. And the next day was exactly that work getting done. And it looks great. So I'm very happy with what they were able to accomplish. And it feels like a brand new bathroom and sort of like a partially brand new kitchen. Partially. But we're getting there. We're getting there, folks. All right. So anyway, what are we going to talk about today? And I was kind of playing around with this, and it started out one place and another. But what I want to talk about is this idea of accepting ourselves in sobriety and in life. And not just ourselves, but accepting others, accepting the moment that we're in, realizing that that moment and others and us are impermanent, meaning that we are always changing, always evolving. Nothing stays the same for very long. And that is kind of the way that we move through life. So if that is the case, then even things that might be tough, we can get through with the knowledge that it may not last forever. Or, well, not that it may not. It won't last forever. It will change. It will evolve. Because we change and evolve. So what does that mean for us in sobriety? I'm going to look at it from that perspective, but then also the other perspective I want to look at it from is just life. Because one of the things that we find out in sobriety is that we are back in the game, all right? And life doesn't change. Life doesn't just automatically okay, well, all the good stuff's going to happen to you because you are sober now. Good for you. Good on you. Enjoy your life. It'd be nice if that's the way it works, but it doesn't. What sobriety does is it allows us to take on life without being inebriated, without being foggy, with being clear-headed, being able to think through problems, to pause, to make good decisions based on information and knowledge that we gather, and not just reacting like we did in the past. But another thing that will help us is this idea of acceptance. So we learn early on when we first get into sobriety that the first thing we have to do is accept that we are powerless over alcohol. I'm using an AA term here. You can use any term you want to use. But we've come to the realization that we can't do this. We have no control over this substance that we're putting in our body. No matter how many times we think we can control it, we can't. And it keeps getting out of control. And so we finally accept the idea that we can't control this. And the key word there is accept, right? We accept this idea that we can't control this, that we, for lack of a better way of putting it, have failed to manage it. And I use the word fail only for this reason, not because you are a failure, because you're not. In fact, I think that you're probably more of a genius because you've made the decision like, whoa, this substance is really messing my life up. I need to get past it and over it. Versus the person who just keeps doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, and it's not happening, right? So I do think you're a genius in the idea that you're willing to accept the idea that you and alcohol just don't make a good couple. It's not going to work. It's constantly creating problems for you in your life. So you've accepted that. That's the first time you accept anything. Now, does that mean then accepting things gets easier from here? No. In fact, we kind of struggle and fight against it. And we have to accept the consequences of our actions that have happened in the past. When we have to accept maybe how life is laying out for us, even though that we've quit drinking, because I know for me and for many other people I've spoken to, that there's this moment in time where you go, but wait a second, I quit drinking, so why Why am I still having a problem? Why is this person still mad at me? Why is this situation not working? Why am I still struggling at my job? Why, right? Because we're not accepting the fact that there's things in our life that were affected by what we were doing. And we think that things should just be better, and they're not. So we have to fix those things. We have to work on those things. And this is where the acceptance comes in. So one, we have to accept the idea that we were the problem. That we were the ones that were stirring the pot and making things not so good. We have to accept the fact that we have a person that's not happy with us, that's unhappy with us, that's angry with us, maybe, that maybe doesn't want to talk to us anymore, maybe doesn't want to have a whole lot to do with us, doesn't trust us, right? Now, if you're anything like me, this idea of trust, we think, oh, well, I'm not drinking anymore, so, a couple of days of doing everything right, and this person will trust me again. It doesn't usually happen that way. It takes time. So the other part of acceptance is the idea that we have to have patience for the change that we're hoping will happen, all right? But we don't have control over that. So we have to accept the other person's position. And the other person may say, look, I can accept your apology. I accept it, but I don't want to hang out with you anymore. I don't want to be around you anymore. And they have a right to make that choice, right? And this is where, and it's hard, but this is where you have to accept that. You have to allow them that space to make that choice, to decide that, hey, yes, I accept your apology, but I cannot spend any more time with you. So that is another place where we have to accept things. We have to accept that we're going to change as well. That the things that we used to like, we're not going to like anymore. Maybe we're going to decide that we don't really want to be at the job that we're at. Maybe we decide, and this is tough, but maybe we decide we don't want to be in a relationship that we've been in. Whether it's a marriage, whether it's a relationship, a friendship, or a romantic relationship, whatever it might be, we may decide that it just doesn't feel right. One thing that we have to accept there is that we're growing because we're making this decision, but the other person is still maybe stuck in the old ways. They're still looking for their drinking buddy, right? Their person that always hung out with them and stayed up all night drinking whatever and getting stupid and having a good time, and that person doesn't exist anymore. So they have to accept that too, and that can be difficult as well. We also have to accept the situations that are around us, the world that's around us. Like, again, maybe our job doesn't accept us anymore in the position that we have because of the things that we did when we were drinking. And it may take them a long time to trust us again in order to allow us to have the level of job that we had, the level of trust that we had from them. We might even find that our job doesn't want us to be there anymore. And they have a right to make that decision, and we have to accept that, right? In some cases, we have to accept the fact that our life is going to get turned upside down as we start to heal and get better. But we also have to keep in mind that that's not permanent, that our life isn't going to be upside down forever, that we're slowly going to turn it around. We're slowly going to get it right. We're going to put it back together again and make it work. And in the beginning, we think, oh, this is long and this is going to take forever and I'm never going to have a good life again. And before we know it, we're, down the road 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever, and we're starting to see progress. We're starting to see that things have gotten better. And in fact, we might even see that things have gotten better exponentially. Like, they're better it's a lot better now than it ever was when we thought it was better, right? When we thought it was good. And that's in our sobriety. That's in our world as we heal and everything. But let's look at it after the fact. So just because we heal and we start to turn things around and we get things in a better spot, does that mean it's going to stay like that forever? No. Does that mean that we're going to find that perfect job and, happily ever after, or that perfect woman or man that's going to make our lives feel great, the perfect house, the perfect whatever. And that's it. The fairy tale has begun, and, we don't need to do any more because we're going to live happily ever after. Not at all. In fact, the hard things are still going to happen. The relationship breakups are still going to happen. The loss of jobs can still happen. We don't have any control over that. None. So, and we could lose a job the next time around, not because of drinking, just because we don't fit what they want. Or maybe because they're doing layoffs and they're cutting back because of money issues, or maybe we decide to leave. Maybe we decide that it's not working out, that we decide that this doesn't fit what I want to do moving forward in my life. Same with relationships, same with living. We may not like where we live anymore. We may decide that we want to live somewhere else, maybe a cheaper place, or maybe a totally different state, or maybe we want to move to the mountains or to the ocean, by the ocean, or maybe out, away from the hustle and bustle of city life and more into the country. We may start to see that. We may see this change evolve in us, where we start to like things that we thought we'd never like. And we have to just allow that to be there. We have to accept the fact that that is part of who we are now. We also have to accept the fact of who people are and where they're coming from. They may not always agree with us. They may not always see it our way. They may never see it our way. But we have to accept that. We have to accept the idea that they're coming from their place and what they believe in and what they want and what makes sense in their life. And we can't worry or get upset over that they're not fitting into our big narrative that we have about how life is supposed to be now and how our life is supposed to work out. Is that hard? Yeah, it's really hard. And whether you are newly sober or whether you have been sober for quite a while and you're, been living your life out and these changes start to happen again and adjust again, all of that, change is never easy. It can be exciting because it's change and it's different, but even when it's exciting, it can still have this moment of sadness or this moment of loss. It's just part of life, right? It's part of the idea. In Buddhism, we call it dukkha, or suffering. And suffering, we all have it. We all go through suffering. And suffering really revolves around this concept that we attach to things. So we attach to our job. We attach to that significant other. We attach to our friends group. We attach to the town we live in. We attach. And then when we have to break free of that, whether we're wanting to do that or whether somebody else is kind of forcing that, we don't like it. It hurts. It doesn't feel right. It's lonely. It's sad. It's overwhelming sometimes. And a lot of that is because we're so connected to it. We're so attached to it that we don't know how to let go. And one of the things that, we learn in this idea of acceptance is that the idea that things are going to change and that we shouldn't attach ourselves completely to them. And that's difficult to say that. And so let me kind of explain that a tiny bit. It does not mean that you don't love your significant other and you're not in it with them. That's not what this idea of non-attachment means. What it means is that you're prepared for the idea that things could change. And is that going to be difficult and hard if you say your significant other decides that they're going to move on, or maybe you decide you're going to move on? Yeah, it is very difficult and it's hard. And you are going to have this time of breaking away, of getting used to not having that person in your life. But when you can understand that that's all happening because of an attachment to this person that you have to break free of now, it helps. I'm not saying it's going to make it easier, but the understanding of what's happening will make more sense. And you'll understand, like, oh, I'm just still attached, and it's going to take a little while to completely break free of that. But I can do it because things are going to turn around and get better. It's opening the door to something that's even more special and more connected to where I want to be in my life. And that's the way we have to look at things. And we have to look at that dying, that whole concept of, being born and living and dying, and being born and living and dying. That happens in relationships, that happens in jobs, that happens obviously in life. All these things happen as part of the cycle. I mean, look at a tree, right? Look at a tree and just watch that tree throughout the seasons and how it changes. It's born in the spring. It sprouts leaves in the spring, nice bright green leaves. Towards the end of the summer, those leaves start to dry out and change color, and then they fall off. And during the winter, the tree is hibernating. It looks dead. It doesn't look alive. But inside, it's preparing to grow again, to burst on the scene again, and come the spring, there it is. It comes again, right? So we go through the same cycle. We go through the same process. And the accepting that is going to be part of our lives, and when we say dying, I don't necessarily mean that we die, but dying in relationships, dying in jobs, dying in this idea of life and turning it over and being reborn into something else is part of the process. And if you look at your life up to this point, you will see how that has happened. When you left home and went to college, then when you left home for good and moved in your first place, right? Your parents had to separate from you, realizing you, the child, are not staying at home anymore. You are now a young adult and moving out on your own. You saw that as a birth, right? A birth to starting your brand new life all by yourself. And then as time has gone on, you've gone through phases where you moved away from an area because you got a different job, or different people came in and out of your life, friends and significant others and all of that came in and out of your life. So there was this born of a new relationship, and then the growth of that relationship, and maybe the death of that relationship. It all happens, right? It's all part of the process. So we go through this in our lives every day. So why have this podcast? Why do what I'm doing? Why say what I'm saying right now? Why having this talk about acceptance? Because if we don't learn it, we don't understand it, and we don't try to deal with it, we're going to be miserable. We're going to be hanging on to things that are never going to come back. We're going to want to hang on, hoping something will get better. And listen, I'm going to tell you right now that I'm one of those people. I have an anxious attachment style, especially in relationships. And I've had to work at that. And it's not easy. It's been difficult. And there's times that it's not as good as other times. And then there's times that I'm very aware that I'm thinking that way, and I'm able to disengage from that a little bit better and deal with it a little bit better. So in that process, I had to learn what my attachment was. I had to learn the tools that I need to use in order to get past it or get around it, and I have to understand it's there. It's not just going to go away. It's there. And the only way that I'm going to be able to tame it is by recognizing it's there, talking about it, using the tools I need to use in order to navigate it and get through it, and help the person that's with me to get through it. So we get to the other side of it, and I can get past it. And in my attachment style, a lot of it is in the beginning phases of a relationship. So if I can get past that, where I feel safe and comfortable, then a lot of those triggers go away. A lot of that just pauses. It kind of hibernates. But I have to continually work at it. And that's the same thing with any kind of attachment you might have to anything. You have to work at it. You have to work at the process of letting go. You have to realize it is a process. You have to recognize what are the triggers that are happening for you, and how do you deal with them. And then you got to communicate about it. Whether it's communicating to a good friend about, say, a job that you've lost, or whether it's communicating to your significant other about triggers that are happening when he or she doesn't call and check in the course of the day. And even if it's later, that they still do it just to let you know they're okay. And just making sure that you put that out there. Hey, I really do still need, you to call, even if it's later, just to let me know you're okay. And explain why. When I don't hear that call, my brain goes to other places, and I know that's not what is happening, but I can't tell my brain that. So if you could just make that call or even a quick text just to let me know that we're okay and that you're okay, then I'll be able to subside that and I'll be okay. But we have to communicate that, and we can't be embarrassed by it. We have to talk about it. So we have to know what our attachments are. We have to know how to accept things and realize that that's part of life and that things are going to change. And whether we're in early sobriety or we're down the road a ways, these things continue to happen. They're just going to be different. They're not going to be detaching from alcohol or drugs. It's going to be detaching from a job or whatever it might be. Okay? So I hope this helped in some way. I hope this gave you some clues to your own anxieties around attachment, your own anxieties around acceptance. Being willing to accept others as to where they're at can be hard sometimes because we want everybody to be like us. But, the realization that everybody isn't us, that we have to have that, I hate to say it, but I will let you know this. The world does not revolve around you. Sorry. I had to learn that too. So I'm sharing it with you as well. The world does not revolve around you. There are other people in this world going through many, many different things. And to be quite honest with you, you have 10 people in the room, 10 people are in an orbit, and they are the center of that orbit. So just keep that in mind. There's 10 worlds going on in that room. You're one of them. So just understand that. They have no time to worry about you. They're too caught up in their own world and being the center of attention. So, all right. On that note, I will let you go, and I will see you guys in about 2 weeks. And hopefully you'll have a nice 2 weeks. If there's any questions or any concerns, please email me. Again, I will drop it in the box down below. But again, my email is ericandrewcoaching12@gmail.com. That's ericandrewcoaching12@gmail.com. Or if you want to hit up my website, it's ericandrewcoaching.com. So either way is good enough. Would love to hear from you. Or if you want to send a message through YouTube, that would be fine as well. All right. So have a great couple of weeks, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye.